We are here today for Ripples of Success with Jean Leggett, and we're so happy to have you here, Jean. Yay!
Thank you for having me. You two are phenomenal women, so I am delighted to be here.
That's awesome. Jean and I have known each other for many years in a variety of capacities, and we keep crossing paths. And I'm always so impressed with the things that you do. You have a huge impact on the industry that you work in, and we talk about ripples of success, and the ripples that you're making in the game development industry, particularly for women, it's so powerful. And so we're excited to have you here talking about it.
Thank you. You know what? I'm one of those people that can't do a thing unless they're 100%, 10,000%. Yeah, 10,000%, 10,000%, like super into it because I cannot live a life that is disconnected from my values. So everything I
We
do.
cannot relate to that at all.
I've tried before. It made me physically ill. I had to leave my job. So, yeah, everything that I do is driven by my core values, and um, it's really neat to be able to show up in the world and as your fully authentic self, and be able to impact in a positive way just by being you.
Yeah,
Is the
absolutely.
blessing.
I had read an article that you just wrote
Oh
about
yeah,
what is it, wild web.
wild women gamers.
Well, yeah, and it was great. And you were talking there about the work that you do with game developers around helping them build their resume, which is really, it seems like sort of a pathway to some personal development with them. Tell us a little bit about that, because I think it's really magical.
Sure. Well, let me just give you a brief history of my last 7 years. About 7 years ago, my husband wanted to start up a video game development company. There was a near-death experience that came before that. It's very dramatic. And so he's like, I have this idea. And I'm like, great, you go do that. I am doing my coaching. I'm doing laughter yoga, stand-up comedy, wellness coaching. I'm like, I don't have anything to do with your industry. I've been peripherally involved with games for, I don't know, past 20 plus years, but no. And then we joined forces and I became the face of the company. We raised some money. We built a technology that helps writers who don't know how to code make games, story-based games. So that's like the big thing. That's the driving thing. Why? Because our value system says that there's an opportunity to democratize who gets to tell games and make money from games. That's what's the driving force behind our company. So I've been like the hustler to his hacker for the last 7 years. We've been working on that. But before that, with all of the coaching, I was like, well, I don't think I should talk about laughter yoga and video games. Like the two don't go together at all. And a miracle of like one of those life-changing moments that you'll never forget happened about 2 years ago. And our landlord had an illegal unit that we had lived in for 6.5 years. So he's like, you got to get out. And we're like, we hate it here. Let's leave. So we threw everything into storage and we went on a 2-month adventure. And my dad was dying from cancer. Like everything that could be awful in your life was awful in the exact same time. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to be vulnerable because that's my superpower. I go on Twitter to people who've primarily seen me as a game developer for all of this time. And I said, I can't tell you why, but I need cash, but I will give you my coaching experience in exchange. And I woke up the next morning and $1,500 was in the bank.
Wow.
And I went, oh, well, that's interesting.
Hmm.
Huh. And then as a result of that one tweet, I was asked to be a paid mentor for a program in Australia. I have quite a community in Australia. And so I started doing mentoring of game developers in Australia and went, huh, I like this. Okay. They don't have too many older mama bear figure types. And so, having somebody with a little bit more experience is helpful for people to guide them through life and through like business ideas. And that just started to snowball. And in the past year, I have like really merged coaching with a little bit of joy and laughter. Like,
Because
I
you
teach
can't
that as a
not.
technique.
You
Yeah, I
can't.
can't. Listen, it says joy right here because they call me Joyful Jean for such a long time. And so like that has popped in. And then I started just randomly helping people with their resumes. And I came up with this new way. And I went, oh my gosh, this is like coaching in resumes and really empowering people. And so that's like the long-winded answer to your question.
I
But
love the long-winded answer. That is awesome.
but bottom line is my approach is I call it the VIP pillars. And what I'm trying to do is just, you need a snazzy acronym. Everybody likes snazzy acronyms.
Gotcha.
And rather than focusing on the actual jobs that you've had and what you did at a job, it's about telling a story of validation, implementation, and people. Like, where are you showing up and doing the job and doing it great? What's the spotlight? What's the story? How are you? And flipping that switch from I did a thing to I showed up and I'm amazing, putting that on paper,
It's awesome.
and then watching them go off into the world going da 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 da. I mean, it's highly addictive.
Man, they'd show up at an interview completely different.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're walking away with new jobs and raises and promotions. And, somebody said, like, I finally could buy my own apartment. I was like, yes. So like 3 hours with me changed their life. Like, it changed the trajectory of their life. And they just, the way they see themselves has changed. And I'm like, it just takes one moment in time to switch your path. And I do miss making video games, but you all know inside us what our gift is. And my gift is like helping people see their magic. And it always has been.
I know you work with gamers in general. You do spend a lot of your time and energy focused on women and non-binary game developers. So tell us a little bit about that. Obviously, it's a passion for you. So where's the impact coming from there? Why? Just tell us about that.
Well, I don't know if folks know this, but on the game playing side of things, so the gamers, women make up like 47% of gamers, right? Look, KK, she's just like, yeah. And what's interesting too is because we're on so many different platforms, and there's actually a higher percentage of women who play on mobile and tablet, because maybe all they have is like 20 minutes after they put their kids down, and they can just go and they can sit in bed and they can just, do in there. That's what I do, right? Like, at the end of the day, I don't want to be on my computer. Get me away from this chair. I told you that, right? And so there's a lot of people who are playing games. The people who are making games is still like 80% male.
Yeah.
And guess what? Dudes are going to make dude games. And what we're seeing is we have more women that are coming in and more people who identify as non-binary, and our trans community is getting bigger in the game development space, because this is my theory, but I'm pretty sure this is accurate. Games as a medium of entertainment is an immersive one. So say that you're a teenager and you don't have a lot of friends because you feel like you're being bullied. What feels like a safe space to you? It's games. So you grow up going, wow, I really love games and I really want to make games. And so we have the island of misfits. We have a lot of misfits that come into game development because they so closely identify with games as a medium as being the thing that helped them blossom and grow. It helped them survive their childhoods. And at the same time, the gatekeeping is still there in terms of getting access into studios. So the range of the kinds of jobs that you can have are everything from starving indie. So that was us for a while, even though we were funded, we had investors, we had a small group of investors, and listen, $500,000 over 7 years does not go very far with a team. That's not real money. Right? Anybody who understands how money works understands it's not a lot of money. To all the way up to these multi-billion-dollar corporations that have somebody who literally just does like shading on a rock. That's their job. And those jobs are still filled by dudes. And when I put that call out, when I was like, all right, can't tell you why, and I started doing the work with the accelerator, it was like, oh yeah, this is so cool. This is so cool that there is an accelerator specifically for women and non-binary game devs, and giving them the tools that they need. There are some really great organizations. Like I am a mentor for a group in the UK called Code Coven, and they do game boot camps. So they'll take you through, I think it's something like a 12 or 16 week program, and they'll take you through concept to what's called pre-production. So that's like the planning stages, then production, which is like the making, and then post-production, which is the launching of your game. And they take you through everything in 16 weeks in a very intensive program. Again, focused on women and non-binary, like mostly marginalized people, people of color. And so that's where I'm choosing to spend my time and align myself with. You know, there's enough pasty white people in our industry. And the way that I see it is, if we want to see change, then we have to put our time, money, and resources into it. And right now I'm still paying off all our startup debt, but so I put my time and my resources into this. Next year, I'm hoping to put my money in by actually starting to invest in women-led companies in our industry, because we can't shift until we put real money in. Like, I don't know if you two know this, in venture capital in Silicon Valley, less than 2% of money goes to women-led companies, even though women-led companies have shown a higher rate of return.
Yeah, we've seen some of that. Yeah,
It's
right.
It's shocking.
It's shocking and ridiculous. It's
just bad business. I just
yeah. It's so. I mean, we're starting to see the people who made Fortnite. So the company is called Epic. They made redonkulous amounts of money. Redonkulous amounts of money with that game. They've started up huge funds that they're giving away. I think it's a $100 million fund that they created specifically to give away to smaller development companies. And again, they've allocated a certain amount of money to make sure that it's not all white dudes named Chad that are getting the money, that we can start to see diversity in our game. So here's the thing. Here's what I think is going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. We have more women gamers playing, which means we're going to need more women games. More games. So we're probably going to need to hire more women. So
who actually know how to create games for women,
who know how to tell stories for women and hit that sweet spot of, you know, they have a hard time finding the spot, right? To find that sweet spot of what are the things. So I've been on TikTok a lot lately. I'm very curious to see how games companies are using TikTok to market, because it's very smart. If you're a company looking to recruit women gamers, TikTok's not a bad place to be advertising. But what kinds of games would you be advertising using TikTok? Well, probably not your Call of Duty.
Right.
It's going to be the farming simulators. It's going to be the relationship building games. It's going to be the peaceful games, because that's what people are orienting towards. I also know some really incredible women. One of my close friends is doing a Kickstarter right now for a game called Kinder World. And it's a plant-based growing, like you grow these little plants and they teach you about gratitude and inner peace and kindness. And so I'm starting to see the wellness market use gamification to attract more women. That's going to require more women game developers and designers and programmers. And so right now I'm taking all my best clients. I'm like, okay, that's a rock star. So I'm creating these little pods of people that, you know, when somebody comes along saying, hey, you know, we've got a couple of million, who do you want to fund? And be like, them right here. They're ready to go. Yeah.
Awesome.
I've really started to notice in some of the big, like the massively multiplayer online role-playing games, are the messaging that's even coming out of the scripting is so much more supportive and uplifting than it was when I first started playing them.
Very much so.
Like they're really changing. It's like, you know, hey, sometimes we all make mistakes and there you go, and you can do it, and you know, you get better at that. And I'm like, because I know I'm not the target of that game, even though I love it.
I'm dying to know what you're playing.
Well, I just started World of Warcraft again, and
Okay.
I've played EverQuest 2 a lot. So, but I just thought I'd go in and see what's new, because it's been a number of years since I had a gaming computer, and it was I was really surprised at how much more elevated the scripting is than it was.
Yeah, and also the kinds of things that games companies are willing to explore in subject matter. So, you know, I couldn't name a specific example, but when a massive franchise decides to turn around and make a female the protagonist, you get all these angry dude bros saying, why are you ruining our game? It's a girl. It's
yeah, but Tomb Raider was awesome.
You know why they were playing Tomb Raider, though.
Well, yeah, I know she was wearing very tight clothes, but it was still a good game.
Yes. And you know, it's interesting because now we're also seeing the expansion of progressive themes in games. So Senua's Sacrifice was, or Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice had a storyline in there involving mental illness and schizophrenia, I think it was. Independent games like That Dragon Cancer was done by a husband and wife team that basically created a game around their son's diagnosis, treatment, and passing from cancer. And so we're starting to see the shift of the kinds of subject matter that we are exploring in games. Like the game that we're working on, if we ever get to finish it, is about a rape survivor dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder. And my job as the lead writer, and amongst all the hats that I'm wearing, is crafting the narrative so that it's an exploration of therapy versus the exploitation of sexual assault.
Wow.
And so like having those conversations, our industry is still very young and immature, right? But we need to have more people who are not just Chad dudes to come in and go, hey, did you think about this? Did you think about this? There's been so much controversy in our industry recently. A major studio put out a game and it had some pretty anti-Black Lives Matter content in there. And if they had somebody that was Black on the team, they would have been like, that's not right.
Yeah.
But they didn't have that perspective. And so I don't know what they end up doing, if they ended up pulling the game or like taking all that content out and just like completely taking it out. But you see these studios, you know, you get the angry dude bros going, oh, you're putting politics in my games. Like, games are art. Politics has always existed in art.
Yeah.
And I just want to see art that reflects all of us, not just some of us.
One of the things that you said really early on, Jean, was about how immersive games are. And because of the very nature of that immersiveness, like hours can go by. Like the only reason you know things change because suddenly I have to turn a light on because it's dark, right? It's like, why is it making it hard to see? Because of that immersive element, the opportunity for impact is huge. And we can't get away from the fact that games have already been impacting us. And depending on who you show up as to the game depends on whether that impact takes you a little closer one way or another.
Yeah.
You know, is it helpful or harmful? And I love that you're being a leader in this space and helping other people become leaders to create the impact, to take advantage of that immersiveness in a way, to take these great new ideas because they go right in. Right? People have the idea to have really good new ways of looking at the world that will empower them, by the time that they've spent 8 hours playing a game one day, right? So
Yeah. And, like thinking about it from what are the foundational pieces of when you go to start your studio? What are your core values? How do you want to show up in the world? What is your impact? So I spend time talking about that on the podcast. I'm like, let's talk about those things because I want to make a game. Yeah, that's great. But why? What is the driving force? When you wake up in the morning, how do you want people to, if you want to go into games making money, there's tons of money to be made. Sure, fantastic. Most people that I know don't get into games for that. They get into games because they're artists, they're creatives. Some of them will choose to be poor creatives for the rest of their lives. That's because we're wired into that. Listen, I got trapped in that starving artist mentality for a couple of years. But when you think about your core values, it's going to show up. It's going to show up in your content. It's going to show up in how you have relationships with people that you're teammates with. It's going to show up in your personal relationships. Like everything that you talked about in your leadership framework shows up in every aspect of our lives and even in the content that we're creating, right? And yeah, so sometimes people call me auntie, they call me mama Jean, like whatever. I'm like, I'm cool with whatever you want to call me. At the end of the day, I just want you to put your hat on and also it's okay to get it wrong. I had a little disagreement with somebody last night on Twitter. I actually lost a lot of sleep over it. It's okay to be wrong sometimes, right? Like just go out there, be firm in your values, but also don't be so unwavering that you're a jerk face.
words to live by.
Absolutely.
That's your pull quote.
There you
I'm gonna say
go.
we're gonna put that on one of the cards.
Well, this has been such a great conversation. We could probably hang out here all afternoon and do this. And I'm so glad you were with us, Jean. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun. And KK, I'm not into World of Warcraft, but I'm glad that you're getting back into it. And I hope you have a lot of fun. KC, we could do like fun games. Do you play games?
A little. I don't actually know enough about it to even know whether I would like it.
I think you might like Kinder World. I'll send you a link.
I was like, oh, I could grow little plants. That appeals.
Yeah. And you can leave little nice notes for other people, like random strangers. You'd be like, have a great day.
Oh, see, that's my kind of game. I would love that. That makes me happy already.
Yeah. I would play that too. That sounds great.
The world needs more joy.
What we could, and Jean, I'll tell you, and we'll just cut it out if Casey doesn't want me to share it with the world. She came and played Dungeons and Dragons with us twice.
I did. It was good. I liked it.
I love that. I think the thing that we need to be mindful of as we go into our adult phase of our lives is that we should never devoid ourselves, like remove ourselves from joy. And if we can find that in video games, if we can find that in cooking or blowing bubbles, whatever, just we cannot live lives without joy. That is like our sole purpose for existing.
Yeah. Hear, hear. Sprinkle that shit everywhere. Thanks so much, Jean.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
You bet.